Well, hello students. I'm your instructor, Chris Riley, and I'm here today with my friend Alex. She's a junior at our local high school and very involved there. And I thought it'd be neat to have her interview me since you're looking to be master degrees, secondary ed teachers, and you'd get to hear what she wants to know, and she'll help prompt me for some things that might help you get to know me better, get to know the class better, and get us going together as a learning community. So Alex, where do we start? What would you like to know?
Well, I personally have known you for a long time, and I think that you should start by telling the class some things about yourself.
Okay, well, I'm not going to state my age right off the bat, but you'll figure it out as I tell you about myself. I am a grandmother. I have 3 grandchildren that live about an hour and a half away with my daughter, Stephanie, and her husband, Marcus. And they're 2 very rambunctious boys, an 8-year-old boy and a 6-year-old boy, and they have a very sassy 3-year-old sister, Stella, who works very hard to keep up with them. And I really enjoy being a Nana because I can do all the spoiling and all those things that parents really rather you not do, but I'm not responsible for the outcome of their education or their personalities. I just get to be amused by them and enjoy them, so I really love that. And then I have a son and daughter-in-law that live here in town, and I get to see them a lot and interact with them a lot. In fact, my daughter-in-law is a math teacher at the high school where Alex goes. Did you have her for math, Alex?
I did, my freshman year.
And what worked for you in working with my daughter-in-law?
She was so much fun.
And very caring too, isn't she?
Yes.
I hear that from students, but I'm a little prejudiced, aren't I? And then, so that's kind of the basics of me. Married, 2 kids, grandkids. I have a dog that'll probably jump into the picture at some point, a little poodle. And the rest of my life, I have a beach scene here kind of behind me. I'm a beach girl. I'll be telling you a little bit about that later. And I would say my favorite hobby, other than being a grandmother, is gardening and trying to get myself to a beach somewhere, and reading. I'm a very voracious and avid reader. So did you have anything else you wanted to ask me that you think they might like to know?
Yeah. I know that some teachers love their job, and I know that some don't.
You can tell, can't you?
Yeah. But why did you want to be a teacher? Like, what started this?
I think what started it for me is there are a lot of teachers in my family. My grandmothers were teachers, my aunts, my great aunts. That's what I heard about as a youngster. My dad was even on the school board. That was a little intimidating as a child. And I loved learning, and I was very curious, and I played school like a lot of kids do. And at some point I also thought I wanted to be an archaeologist and marine biologist, and that didn't quite pan out. But for me, teaching brought all that stuff I was curious about and my love of learning together. It just felt very natural, and so it wasn't a decision. It was more like a calling. It was more like becoming aware of your gift. And some people have gifts for dancing. Some people have gifts for singing. Some people are gifted artists. My gift is, and has always seemed to be to me, my ability to share life with kids, all age kids, and to relate to them and help them grow and learn and figure out who they are. So that's really how I came about the decision. I think part of my background too, in addition to that, was at one point I lived in a very small little Jersey Shore town, maybe 200 people there year round, very small. And so I went to a 4-room schoolhouse, and I'm not that old to where that was common. In fact, it's still a very small school. But we had small classes, and that enabled my teachers to do lots of creative things with us. When you only have 20 kids in 2 grades, you know, we were off on field trips. We were down at the beach. We were interactive with the community. We were involved in the life of the island and in the surrounding area. And growing up there in New Jersey, there's a lot of history in that area. And so we went to all those places and spent time there. So I was thoroughly immersed in hands-on education and multi-level education. You know, we would do things with the 1st graders and the 4th graders. And so that was really very challenging for me and very interesting, and I loved it. Then I moved to Southern Indiana. Nothing against Southern Indiana, but I moved to a small town in Southern Indiana, and the teaching there was very traditional. I was bored out of my mind. To be honest, I couldn't wait to graduate. Thought I'm dying here because it was lecture, quiz, soak it in, spit it back out, forget it. And that wasn't what I was used to. It's not the way I am as a learner. And I can remember I would be in these classes going, I could do better than this. And I would rewrite those teachers' lesson plans as I'm trying not to be bored out of my mind in the classes. So when I then left that high school to go to Indiana University in Bloomington to the teacher's school there, once again I got to be immersed and hands-on, out in the classrooms. The methods classes had us actively engaged. And yes, there were lectures, but they were more like getting that background knowledge you need to be able to do the other stuff. And that I clearly understand that that's necessary. And it wasn't just one day after another, after another, after another lecture. And again, we were very hands-on and immersed. So it was very exciting to be there and learn to become a teacher. And I had some unbelievable opportunities in some programs they had there that they were, I kind of was a guinea pig test out person in a couple programs. So when I left, I was very excited to get a classroom and get started.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my background and how I came to teaching. It was a family thing, and then it was partly the way I grew up. And my parents were both very well educated people. It was just expected that I would go on to college. They didn't particularly care what I did, but education was something that was of value in my family.
I know you were actually at my high school, but you weren't in an actual classroom, so what were you doing there?
I know you used to see me and look at me like, what are you doing here? And I know we never really talked about it a lot. I know you knew I was doing something. Actually, what happened was I was in the classroom for 32 years. You know that.
Yeah.
You see me there. And then I got a job, the first one that they created in the district, as a coordinator coach, English Language Arts coordinator coach. And I was the only person that worked K-12 in the district at that time, which was very exciting because the job evolved and I got to help do that, create that job. At first it was mostly about bringing response to intervention, or RTI, to the district, and as they'll learn later in the course, that's when you work with kids who have learning difficulties and you're trying to bring them the best case scenario for their learning that you can. And so I worked with that, but I also worked with, and you saw me in some of these areas, worked with teachers of all content areas. So I was at the high school because frankly that's where my office was, but I was working with teachers at the high school and teachers at the middle school and still overseeing other coordinator coaches at the elementary level. And because I was at the high school and the middle schools and there's content areas, I was working not just with English Language Arts teachers on best practices, but I was working with all content areas, foreign language, the finance classes, lots of social studies, math, lots of these different classes, because what works as best practice teaching in one content area is basically good for all content areas. And I was also trying to help them develop some interconnectedness as teachers to work together and integrate. I also helped during that time, you may remember in-service days when you were off. Well, I planned those days where they were learning the technology for your one-to-one, or that we would be in-servicing them on project-based learning, PBL, bringing other kinds of new practices, assessment. We had a day where we taught formative and summative assessment, how to formulate learning targets from the state standards. So I planned that and brought that to the district at the secondary level. And so I was in and around the high school, but as you know, I would be coming and going to the middle schools too. So that was, I actually found that to be my niche. And then when I had time, I'd get out with kids and just talk with them and find out what their needs were and what was working for them and what wasn't. And that gave me a lot of good information. Remember, I used to pester you and ask you those questions too.
Yeah. I know you love this, but why do you love this?
I think for me, as you know, I just recently retired from public school full-time. I'm still working as a consultant for public schools, including my district. What I love about working with people who are teachers, well, you know, I love working with kids because of the growth and what I can bring to them in building a learning community and moving them forward in their self-knowledge and their academic growth. But I love that same thing about working with teachers and people who want to be teachers, is to take my experience that I've had of almost 40 years and help coach them, because I really feel I'm a facilitator and a coach. I don't see myself as the sage or the expert, you know. I just have a lot of experience. And so I can ask questions that help people think and reflect. I can help people who are students move forward by helping them find that background knowledge they need and sharing that with them, and then helping them reflect and move forward in their own learning. And that's what's exciting me about these classes that we're doing this video for. I've been able to write and design the classes and now instruct them. And I'm very excited about that because I think that expertise I've built brings a lot. I'm trying to conduct the classes in a way that might be something they could do online with a group. You know, you do e-learning and you're doing learning on computer from home. And so some of the activities and things I want to do, hopefully I can bring to them. We're going to take a pause because my phone's shutting us down. Well, to wrap things up, one of the things I wanted to let you know is that I've taught a lot of graduate classes. I've taught for pre-K-12 in a variety of subject areas. I've taught elementary school, I've taught high school. I'm excited to be your instructor. I'm excited for us to be a learning community. And the rest of what you need to know will be in an introductory letter in the syllabus. And then each module has an introduction. See, I'm a good teacher. And I'm looking forward to having an opportunity to interact with you. Talk to you again soon. Thank you.